Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Peteman Reviews. Today we have the Trasnfromers Generation 1 version of Blaster. This is the commemorative release, though I'm not sure that there's really any difference between the commemorative version and the original. Now, this is Blaster in his cassette deck mode. As you can see, he comes with a cassette inside for the purposes of this review. I will demonstrate the fact that it's got a bit of a dodgy spring on it, in that you press the spring. It does unlock it, but it doesn't actually open it. But there you are, you can open it yourself, and that's the cassette. You believe it's eject in there. So there we are, so that's Blaster in his tape deck mode. He does also come with an accessory, which is one of the most absurdly oversized guns there is. I hope Blaster isn't compensating for anything. To be fair, this is kept in as its size in the comics as well. I don't think it is in the TV series, but certainly the comics always demonstrates Blaster as having a colossal gun, so to speak. So, there is the cassette deck mode. As you can see, it's actually not too bad. It comes with a nice little handle, like this. On that side, fairly plain and drab. It's really this side where all the detail is. As you can see, it's got what would be speakers. It doesn't have any functional buttons like Soundwave does. So you can press these in, but they don't do anything. And that's it. There's even an on-off switch here. Here we are, an on-off switch there. It doesn't actually do anything or move, and it looks like it should. Now, there is some history behind Blaster. I understand he was originally meant to be a working cassette radio, and that perhaps explains the chunkiness of him, and the fact that you've got speakers here and here which are clearly perforated for sound that would come out, and an on-off switch that doesn't do anything but probably should have done. You can quite easily imagine batteries probably would have gone in here. There's quite a lot of space there, or maybe even here. Certainly this would have worked quite well as a cassette, as a functioning radio. Indeed, the adverts even said is not a working radio, which further implies that it was originally meant to be. So it's an alright transformation. It's pretty large for what he is. Now, when we transform him, we'll just see how this goes into proportions. So to begin with, you need to remove this part of him. So that just comes out like that. As you can see, this does slide across. Once that's slid across, that opens. His legs, then you need to just pull them apart, as you can see. This then gives you enough play to be able to lower the leg like that. This then comes down. This part here then just slides back up into there. So that looks like that. And that's one of his feet. So there we are. So that's one of his legs done. So we now need to do the same thing on the other side, so you just pull that out like that, leg slides down, that slides down, this slides back up, and then that comes down there. Now for his arms, very simple transformation, pull them down, pull that down, and that's his arms done. As for his hands, there's a little slider here, you can just see there, so you literally slide that across, lock down, and you do the same again on this side. There we go. As for his head, flips up and swivels round. And there we are. Nope, not a bit too tall for the shot. There we are. So that is Autobot Blaster and of course his gun. And that is it. That is the level of articulation you get. Is the gun waves up and down. If ever there was a brick, this is it. Do the legs swivel about? No. Do the arms swivel? No. His head, in all fairness, does move, and that's more than some of the later Transformer bricks that came out. But that's it for Blaster. It's a very, very simple transformation, resulting in a pretty tall and oversized robot. I've seen a lot better, and we all have. That said, let's compare him with other ones who came out shortly afterwards. So this is Ultra Magnus. As you can tell from the absurdly oversized missiles, it's the commemorative release as well. Now, Blaster is actually on a very good par with Ultra Magnus there, regardless of the fact that Blaster is actually slightly taller if you look at where his shoulders come up than Ultra Magnus, which doesn't really make sense. Actually, looking at them side by side, that's not too bad. Now Ultra Magnus, as we know, has absolutely zero manoeuvrability in his legs. His arms will do that, they'll go up like that. Although his will rotate out like that as well, which is more than Blaster's do. His head doesn't move, however. So manoeuvrability of this mid-80s range, so the release after the original Diaclone range, is extremely limited. There we are. We compare him with Soundwave. So let's take Ultra Magnus away. You've all seen Soundwave from previous reviews, but Soundwave has so much more. You can, take his gun away, but you can move the arms fully, like that. He can pose, he can do things like that. While his legs don't necessarily move in the right way, you wouldn't want legs moving like that. His head moves. He can actually do poses. He could, for example, do a pose like that with a transformer on here. Blaster can do that. It doesn't really work, does it? I say, comparing it with Blaster compares a bit more favourably with someone like Ultra Magnus, just because of the fact that those sorts of days there wasn't much manoeuvrability. The original ones were so much more manoeuvrable. Even when you compare them against, for example, the Seeker jets, it's not too bad manoeuvrability, because let's face it, the Seekers didn't really do very much either. So let's just have a look at Thundercracker, for example. Again, you can tell from the rather absurd missiles, they don't look too bad in this, that this is the commemorative release. But Thundercracker, he can waggle his arms about, like that. That's it, that's all he can do. It's very, very limited manoeuvrability. Blaster, it does come off worse because he can't move his arms at all from side to side, just up and down. So I think Blaster is more worthy of a brick. It's a bit unfortunate that he's shaped like a brick. We'll just take Thundercracker away. Centralised Blaster for you. So there we are. So what's good about this toy then? We've criticised him enough. What's good about him? His face is very detailed, actually. I know that's perhaps not quite what they use for the TV series, but that's actually pretty good modelling. The cassette, he can hold one cassette, but it looks quite good in there. Obviously he's got all his stickers on him. The feet do look a bit weak, but it works. Otherwise, say his head's probably the best bit, and I do quite like the fact that the cassette is partially exposed like that. He is a fairly accurate representation in the cartoon series and in the comic series. That's a pretty accurate representation of Blaster. That is pretty much how he looked like. So they've not done too bad a job there in making the toy, or rather making the TV series look like the toy. So most people know Blaster. He is effectively the exact opposite of Soundwave. Whereas Soundwave is cold and manipulative, Blaster is happy and fun-loving. Whereas Soundwave will use music to hurt you, Blaster will use music to soothe and calm you. There's a really good example of this in the IDW comics for the Regeneration 1, where you have Soundwave and Blaster attacking. And Soundwave, by manipulating sound so well, can hide from anything that Blaster tries and does. But Blaster, on the other hand, knows that by Soundwave doing that, he knows that if he then makes a noise, a big noise, because Soundwave is hypersensitive, it will just knock him out. So whereas Soundwave goes for the dexterity, Blaster goes for the bit more of almost the heavy-handedness approach. But he knows what will work. Blaster naturally is the communications officer of the Autobots, as you would expect for that. I think the heavy-handedness of Blaster actually fits in very well with his toy. It's not subtle, it works, and that's it. So there we go. As you can see, I suppose a word needs to be said again about the gun. That's actually not too bad as a weapon. It's quite impressive looking. It actually, with this scope here, does look a bit like Megatron. Only a bit, mind, but I wonder if there might have been some modelling going on there. Anyway, that's on my review of Generation 1 Blaster. Thank you very much for watching, and please leave any comments in the sections below. Obviously, please click on any other links and watch other videos. Thank you. Goodbye.